Welcome, everyone, to episode number 52 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today, I welcomed a good friend of mine. He's a producer, artist, mix engineer. His name is Joe Lewis. Joe is a Michigan native who moved to Atlanta and now actually lives in Brazil for the time being to pursue a career as an artist. I let Joe kind of just give his full rundown of his story, which included working with Maroon 5 on an unreleased song. He kind of gave a pretty cool story about that. Mixing for Hit Boy and Stacy Barthe, thanks to Chill, who was actually one of the founding members of Surf Club, which is kind of a cool story as well. And then he also touched on what it's been like living in Brazil for the last couple years, pursuing his career as an artist, and how Brazil kind of views artistry a lot different, and they also view American music a lot different, which I thought was a very cool perspective. And, you know, I've known Joe now since about 2018. He's mixed a lot of songs for me and Jay. Jay Trey's whole, Phoenix album, the majority of that was all Joe Lewis mix engineering. So, I've got to know him as a person just through working with him on the business side and everything. And I can really safely say he's a very genuine guy and very hard-working guy, too. I admire, people that have that type of work ethic that he does. So I was glad to get him on the episode today. And I'll let you guys hear his really amazing story that he's, been able to accomplish all of this stuff really in the span of the last 4 or 5 years. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, welcome everyone to episode number 52 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today we have a good friend of mine. He's a Michigan native. I think he's in Brazil right now, he just said. This dude's a very hardworking guy, producer, engineer, artist. His name is Joe Lewis. How are you, man?
Bro, I can't complain. I'm great, honestly.
Yes, sir. And again, it's glad to reconnect with you. I'm glad to get you on the show and everything. Me and you have been working now for 2, going on 3 years and everything. You've mixed a lot of songs I've produced, a lot of songs for Jay, and we always love your work, man.
Yep.
We always commend you on your work.
I always love you guys. Like I said earlier, you guys stick to true hip-hop, but it's so, you guys are so creative. There's this one song, and I was like, we had only talked, one time, so I didn't know your voice, and I think you had did, a voiceover. I can't remember if it was, something about a dragon, or it kind of gave me,
I think I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember the song, but I remember, going through this, and I was like, man, these kids they're really creative with, how they're putting their songs together. You guys' song structure is never the same, and my favorite songs end up the ones where you guys have a female singer on the hook. But I love working with you guys. Every time I get a song, I'm not expecting the same thing I gotta do from some of my clients when they say, "No, I know it's gonna sound like this, so I gotta do it like this, and that could be done in a couple of minutes." But with you guys, I'm listening, and I remember one time, bro, I played the song for 2 hours after I was done, and it wasn't realizing I really fuck with this song. But I definitely enjoy working with you guys, so it's mutual.
Yeah, well, likewise, man. And like I said, I'm just grateful that you reached out to us originally just to even start working, because I still remember getting the email, and I was like, oh, I've got emails from a lot of people, but let me see what this dude's about. And I just remember checking out all your work, and I was like, you know what? He's really good. We'll give this a shot.
I appreciate it.
And, I'm glad it worked out, man. And we got to send you more records, because I know it's been a while. But I'm glad to have you on the show today. And to start it off, for those that might not be aware of you or your music, kind of just give a little bit of background as to how you got into music, kind of what your journey's been so far. I know myself a little bit about your journey, but for those that might not be familiar.
So I've been a musician all my life. My earliest childhood memory is being in the church playing the drums. My parents would tell you I was a kid banging pots and pans and tambourines all over the house. But it wasn't until I think probably I got to high school when I was on the drum line where I began to take music a little bit more serious, but I was still an athlete. So, when you're a football player, and honest to God, I think this is horrible. There's a saying, but it's kind of too masculine per se. It's just too masculine in its thinking in terms of somebody who's a football player or an athlete can't creatively express themselves. And that's how I felt for a long time. So I played football because I knew that I could hopefully go play college and then go play pro or coach at one of those higher levels. But I love music so much, but I didn't, I spent more time actually working towards football. So music just came natural. I was on the drum line, and my mentor, he was our drumline director at the time, he found out that I couldn't read music. So when he came back from his honeymoon, we were in like the second week of band camp. I'm a freshman. I'm on a snare. I know all the music. I can play all the drum cadences, but I can't read any of the songs. So once he, after he cussed me out for not being able to read music, because he was trying to figure out like how a kid had gone this far without anybody realizing that he can't read. So once he found that out, he began to kind of train me to the side, and I grew a love for classical music, and working with bands. And then I got to college, I was playing football, and I didn't have any more band classes. So from the age of 9 until 18, I had a band class every single day, from elementary until high school. I go to college, I have no music classes, and I wasn't realizing, like, I felt weird, and I felt like something was missing in my life, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was like, damn, I'm not in band class anymore. And I didn't realize how much music was important to me because I spent so much time downplaying it. I don't do music, do football. On top of, like you were saying earlier, 5 years ago, there's no one telling you how to do this, especially in the Midwest. So, as a kid, I always had this huge dream of like being just one of the biggest, not artists, but just being like the biggest thing in music. But I thought that everybody had that dream, because who doesn't, want to be a famous singer or producer the same way who doesn't want to be the president, So I'm thinking that my thoughts are, just kind of juvenile per se. And then I had a friend, he's a rapper named Ali Boumaye. I want to say he's down in Texas right now. And he went to the opposite high school to me. I knew he played piano. And to kind of fill the missing gap that I was having towards music, I bought this Roland Octopad. And I was just kind of playing the drums on it. I still wasn't into producing or engineering. And we linked up one day. He gave me a cracked version of Logic just because we were, I was doing so much recording for him. And he was giving me piano parts. And I knew about GarageBand, but he was like, nah, man, use Logic because it's like GarageBand, but way, way better. And after he gave me that cracked version, bro, I promise you, I've never looked back. So he gave it to me that summer. I luckily wasn't invited to two-a-days at Western because the recruiting class underneath me was so massive. NCAA only allows teams to have 105 players at camp. But Coach Fleck told some of the walk-ons that, hey, you just can't come to camp because I need my freshmen here to learn the playbook. We already knew the playbook. And we weren't players who played, so they don't really need us. I was happy as hell. Like, I don't got to go to camp. Fuck yeah, I'm about to go make beats all fucking day. And before, I'll never forget, Coach Fleck calls me. He said, hey, John, I need you to come into camp. They had a player get injured or something happened with the family. And when he called me, I'm like, bro, I don't want to go back. Like, I don't like football. And I just remember thinking, all right, Joe, I try my best to be a man of my word, especially when there's things depending on it, So I gave one another man my word and said I would do this, but I also gave 100 or 105 other men plus staff to say, hey, I'll show up for this season. Whether or not I play, I still told them that I'm going to come up. I trained all summer and throughout the winter, so I'll finish this season out and then I'll go do music. And through that season, I got into Western's music program. And I got there, I had to audition and go through all these loopholes. And I get there, and I was sitting down with a guy who was about to graduate with this program degree. And I'm like, hey, I asked him some question. I'm always looking to learn. So I asked him a question that I couldn't find on YouTube, couldn't find on Google. And he couldn't answer the question. And I knew that it wasn't that hard of a question. I just was too young to find the answer. But I'm expecting somebody to graduate with this degree in, I think it was multimedia arts, to be able to answer this question for me. He had no idea. And I wasn't learning how I learn best also. I had to learn that I'm not a traditional school person. So what happened is in the midst of me learning, like, oh, I love music. I'm done with football now, and now I'm in Western music program, but their classes kind of suck. I just dropped out of college, but my parents are educators, and I'm a firm believer in education. I don't believe in school systems, but I believe that we should always be learning. So I remember I had a friend tell me about Full Sail, and I'm like, you know what? I can do this online. This would be good. And honestly, I'm just taking these classes so I can become a better beat maker. I had no idea the things that I would learn. And I enrolled. I think the program was about 2.5 years. I graduated 2019. And honestly, a lot of people will talk bad about Full Sail because a lot of people can't survive through the music industry. You know, a lot of people are looking for a handout. So somebody will go to Full Sail University and they expect, because they graduated from this top production university, whether it's in music or film or anything, that they're going to get a job right away, or because somebody cares. The music industry and entertainment is one of the only industries where your degree doesn't matter to get a job, and no one actually has one, so why would they care? The most experienced engineer probably didn't go to school. You know, your best producers, they didn't go to school for this shit. So I go to Full Sail, but because I'm online, I'm able to still move around and work, and that was really what kind of gave me the advantage. Was I'm learning in class the formal theories behind things, but I'm also testing them out with my clients and my friends that I'm recording. And then about a year and a half into taking classes, I decided to move to Atlanta because my friend Ali, he was from Kalamazoo but moved down to Atlanta for school. And, you know, we're like, are we going to get this music shit going together? You know, the whole camaraderie, you know, let's do this shit thing. And I said, okay, where are we going to go? Because my head knows either you have to be in New York or LA, because those are where all the major offices are at. And he goes, nah, bro, come to Atlanta. Fucking Atlanta, like, for what? Nah, it's hip-hop, it's growing. I said, whatever. And how he got me was, he said, it's cheaper to live, because it was a lot cheaper to live. So I said, you know what? It's a major city. I go there, and I went there, and I honestly fell in love. There's a lot of things that I don't like, of course, like with anything else, but Atlanta is such a great city, and it was a great city to get my feet wet in the music industry, because the music industry there isn't overwhelming, but it still has a presence that you can learn and grasp from it, and they're very tight-knit there. So after moving to Atlanta, this is kind of when the doors really opened up wide. And about a month into moving down there, I found the studio to manage me and to work out of. And through my manager, and then, so the way the studio was set up was, it was more of a production house that had studios in it than a studio. So people came and rented it out. But our main jobs were production and songwriting. So through that, I got to meet, you know, I hung out with Jill Scott one time. She was, honestly, Jill Scott might be one of the nicest people I've met. So, you know, and that was an eye-opener, because, you know, my manager comes in and he's talking to me about this artist. Her name is Bria Lee. Bria Lee is hands down one of the most talented vocalists I've ever in my life heard. Her range and her voice is, you know, 0 to 100. Her style and beats and production range from EDM, country, hip hop, jazz. Like, she's like if Beyonce and Amy Winehouse like came together, and how, you know how Beyonce is kind of all over the board. She can do pop and hip hop, but Amy Winehouse kind of has this jazzier blues feel too. But, you know, it kind of mixed in Lady Gaga as well. Like, Bria is really talented, and she was going through development. I don't even want to get her label wrong. It's maybe RCA or Interscope, or it was one of these labels. And I'm talking with her manager, and because she was going through development, labels will sometimes send a bigger artist to kind of just stop by the studio and encourage. Jill Scott was in town. They're signed to the same label and the same management team. So she comes, and my manager was like, hey, Jill's here. You want to meet her? I'm like, Jill Scott? Like, I can meet. I just watched her movie like 2 weeks ago. Are you sure I can be in the same room as her? And he's like, yeah, man, you know. So she comes in, And this was the realest eye opener in that people are people, So I'm not sure why in my head that I thought Jill Scott was going to be 20 feet tall, like on the movie theaters. But when she walked in, she was my mom's height. I'm like, wow, you're a regular person. She was just nice and bubbly and smiled. And that taught me, to look at everybody normal. Because throughout that entire situation, I'm like, all right, Joe, don't ask for a picture. Don't look at her too much. Don't seem like you haven't been around somebody of her status before. Because I hadn't. And, it taught me that I was overthinking it. She's a regular person. She puts her pants on the same way. She drinks water just like everybody else. So that was a huge eye-opener. But then through that production company, I got to work with Maroon 5. And that was probably the biggest song that I worked on. And it's never going to come out. And it's crazy to see the processes that an actual song takes. So this Maroon 5 song, I worked on a version of Girls Like You. So Girls Like You comes out 2018, 2019, but it's on their album Red Pill, Blue Pill. This album from Maroon 5, now I'm a Maroon 5 fan, so when I say this, it might piss somebody off, but it was their flop album. They had already peaked in a lot of things that they were doing. Their sound was changing. The sound of pop music was changing at this time because now we're starting to catch pop really grasp hip-hop influence. And Maroon 5, that wasn't the kind of music they were making. So for that album was totally new in terms of a sonic for them. So what happens with a lot of pop songs is, you do an album and then say you have 4 singles. You take those 4 singles and you get them remixed by EDM producers, hip-hop producers, just whomever to have different versions of the song to put in clubs or just to have out. So we get word, we get a list of artists that are looking for last-minute songs, and Maroon 5 is on there. So we're writing songs for Maroon 5, and I can hear, his name is J. Rel. He was one of the producers in the other room. I can hear what he's working on. Like, wow, this shit is great. I come in, so this is probably like, midnight. I come in the next day, and I can hear Adam Levine's vocals. And I'm like, bro, how? And I came in at like 4 p.m., so there's not a lot of time in between, me leaving at 4 a.m. and me coming back at 4 p.m. I'm like, how the fuck was I gone for 12 hours? And Adam Levine walks in and records a song and no one says shit. Like, first off, why is Adam Levine in Atlanta? But, so I'm asking my manager, I said, bro, those Adam's vocals, like, how did that happen so fast? He said, no, he sent the vocals in, he's building the beat around the vocals. Because we weren't working on remixes, he was. So, and, this kind of just goes to show you, it's always important in the music industry to smile at people, to be nice, to say hi. Because when my manager goes, oh, no, Maroon 5, they sent the vocals to him, he's making the beat around it, my mind blew up. I said, wow, like, J. Rel is probably going to land this because he can make 10 different beats, and the hard part is done. The hardest part about making a song is, what is the artist going to say? But when you already had that vocal, and it is easy. So I'm, a kid, I'm really happy for J. Rel because I'm like, man, he's talented. I know for a fact that because he has the vocals with him, he's going to land it. My manager looked at me, he said, man, 1 second. He comes back and he throws a flash drive at me. He said, now you got the vocals too. I'm like, hold on, I got Maroon 5 vocals? Because I went from recording like independent rappers who don't even like music anymore to I can work with Maroon 5. And Maroon 5 is one of my favorite bands. Well, I went home and when I opened it up and like could see like what it looked like, I cried a little bit. Like, there's no fucking way. Like, so I asked him, I said, how did you get him to give me that? He said, so because I wasn't supposed to have the song. So he goes, I talked to J. Rel's manager, and he likes you because he would just be around, and I would say hi to him. He was like the big homie, didn't say too much, but he was one of those people where when he did talk, you listen. So I just always try to be respectful, especially because I was working out of his building. So, through me just not being a dickhead, he's like, give Joe the shot too, and we went from there. So what happens with the song is Maroon 5 is under the assumption, which they should be, that this entire album would do well. So they only have a couple of hip hop features on there. I think at the time it's like Future and Ty Dolla $ign maybe. So, but the album doesn't do well at all. So they take some songs, and this is actually the best thing about the digital age is that they take down the singles. So like Girls Like You, the first version did not have Cardi B on there, but the song wasn't doing well. So they needed some hip hop features. So the first one that they did, let me backtrack. So when I'm making my version for Maroon 5, my first thought is, hey, let me do something EDM-ish because they're a pop band. They're gonna want a club remix, and it was closer in the same vein as what J. Rel was working on. So I know that we're working to like this makes sense logically as to what you would do with a band like this when they want a remix. Mm-hmm. My manager goes, no. At the time, his cousin was managing Lil Uzi. He goes, hey, I can get Uzi on the song. So I scrap my idea and I make it more of a hip hop beat, and I put a pocket in for Uzi. And because I'm not supposed to have the song, I can't send this song out. So we have to wait till Uzi gets into Atlanta to come record, but he's on tour, never comes to Atlanta. Maroon 5 wants the song back by whenever, so we send in blank versions, and we let them know, hey, this is a spot for Uzi, but we just couldn't get him. Because what we were trying to do was make something surefire. So if the Maroon 5 gets their song back, but they hear Uzi's vocals on there, somebody who, at the time, not that they couldn't reach, but they just didn't have the relationship with. So it would have been, kind of like putting the icing on the cake ourselves. So my manager calls me, some months later, hey, Joe, I forgot to tell you, because in my mind, I'm like, this is not going to work out because the song's not finished to me, so I know they're going to hear it and be like, yeah, no. Mm. So he's like, hey, man, I forgot to tell you, Maroon 5 really like what you did. They just aren't going to buy it because, you're top 5, not top 3. So I'm like, okay, that's, I was pissed for some other reasons because I feel like it shouldn't have took those turns. But I was happy just to know that at 19, I had the skill level to, at 20, I had the skill level to produce for Maroon 5. If I play that shit right now, it sucks. I'm not going to lie. It is not good. It's not good work. But then I fast forward, and I'm telling my manager, I said, hey, in the process, I said, they're going to want to rap. So I think that your Uzi idea is really, really good, but we have to make this happen. We don't need the timeline. So as I'm watching Maroon 5, they take down one song. I can't remember the name of it, but then the version that they put out of that song now has A Boogie on it. The first album version didn't. Well, because it's all digital, they can just swap out songs and almost no one notices it. Mm. So then they do the same thing with Girls Like You, but this time with Cardi. So I'm telling. I text my manager, hey, they got A Boogie on the song. I think we're all we get on the right track with Uzi. And then you fast forward some months, and then they have this version with Cardi B. And what happens is, at least for me, in my mind, had a couple of things went right. Because when you look at the track that Maroon 5 takes, this is the same year that, the NFL just lets go of Colin Kaepernick. So every black artist is turning down performing at the Super Bowl. NFL hits up Maroon 5. They say yeah. Now this is just my thinking and speculation based upon the personality types that I can see. Now Maroon 5 asked Cardi B to come perform this song with her. She says no because of all the things going on. Mm. Now I believe that had we been able to get the Lil Uzi song, Uzi would have been the one performing with them, and he wouldn't have said no. So now I would have had my song playing at the Super Bowl. And honest to God, the only reason why we didn't get that was, and I love my manager to death, so I don't mind saying this, but he wasn't truthful in the status of his relationship with Uzi's manager. So they were cousins, but, because at this time, he's just not meeting me. So, when you meet somebody, for the most part, you're bullshitting them unless you're a completely honest person. And it was that situation that made me learn, just tell the truth whenever you talk, and the whole truth. That way somebody's not under the assumption that it's for real, because my assumption was, oh, Uzi's your cousin, or your cousin manages Uzi, we can make this happen. As I grew my relationship with my manager, I come to find out that they weren't that close, and it wasn't It was Uzi on tour, but it also had to do with, pride and things of that sort. He never really reached out to him. So when we're in the room in the studio, everybody talks with big balls. Oh, I can do this and Uzi this, but in reality, you couldn't. So it literally, the difference between, and I guess this is the whole point, the difference between my Maroon 5 song not only coming out and being released, but being played at the Super Bowl came down to a relationship. And how somebody, one, portrayed their relationship, and then how they actually handled the relationship. Had they had a better relationship, we probably actually would have had it, because Lil Uzi hadn't worked with the artist with the status of Maroon 5. So this was something that was perfect for everybody. Maroon 5 needed Uzi because he's new in hip-hop, and he's the biggest artist out right now. So this is before Uzi goes into his shutdown where he's not putting out music because he's trapped in a bad deal, because this is before he goes over to Roc Nation. And Uzi needs, I think Uzi might have had one pop feature out at the time. So, he was still only big in hip-hop. And, hell, I needed that song too. Shit. So I think it would have worked out for everybody. But, that was the lesson I had to learn in terms of relationships. I've seen in one relationship, not make something happen. And then, honestly, from that, man, everything kind of just came random. I was able to work with Hit Boy and Stacy Barthe on a song. So this guy was my neighbor. His name is Chill. And I'm walking out the house one day at 3 something in the morning to go to the gas station. And he's walking into his apartment. I'm like, man, you look like a rapper. Ha ha ha, yeah, and we exchange numbers, but I don't know who he is. All he knows is that I'm the person above him that always has artists running in and out for their sessions. So, fast forward a couple of months, and we're hanging out, and I just remember I never played him any of my music, and I never sold him or anything because I didn't know who he was. I don't know if he's a client, if he's a friend. I'm just hanging out with him because he's my neighbor at this point. And I got back from my graduation, and we're hanging out, and he goes, "Hey, bro, you got your hard drive and the auto-tune?" I said, "Yeah." So I bring him the auto-tune plug-in. He says, "Hey, why you got your hard drive in? Take this session and mix it for me." He plays it for me, and I can hear Stacy's vocals, but I'm only used to hearing Stacy's background vocals. So I'm like, man, her voice. So I immediately took it because I knew that I knew her voice, but didn't know from where. I just knew that, she's been on big records, but bro, who is he? Oh, that's Stacy. That's Stacy. I'm like, okay, well, whatever that means, but I know this voice. And then he goes, yeah, Hit Boy made the beat. But I hear a tag in it. I'm like, Hit Boy didn't make this beat because Hit Boy doesn't use tags. He just did an interview talking about how he doesn't use tags because Kanye West told him producer tags are whack. So I'm like, he doesn't have no fucking tag. Then Hit Boy put out a project. I want to say the group is RGB something. It's some West Coast group that I want to say assigned to Hit Boy or something.
Oh, I know what it was. It was the SOB RBE album.
SOB. There we go. So I'm listening to that project, and I hear the same tag that I have on my hard drive. Yeah, boy. I'm like, fuck, Hit Boy really did produce this song. And that song, so me getting that opportunity was not because of my skill level or because I graduated somewhere. Literally, I just made sure whenever I seen this dude, I said, what's up? I just, hey, bro, how you doing? And kept it cool. Because he could have gave this to any other engineer. Hit Boy has way more qualified engineers. Stacy Barthe has more qualified engineers. So I couldn't understand, I was praying, asking God, but why? I'm trying to figure out what I did right so I can do it again. The only thing I did was say hi, and just kind of keep a smile on my face. And, people are always watching you work. So he watched me work because I live right above him. He knew that I had graduated. So, he took a chance on me. But it was because he felt safe. Like, hey, man, Joe's a cool dude. Let me see how this works. And so those were probably my biggest, songs. The Maroon 5 was a huge, huge learning experience. And honestly, bro, the bigger lesson in Maroon 5. So by the time of my second year in Atlanta, I did the song Maroon 5. I've been in a room with Jill Scott. I've seen Music Soul Child so many times that I don't even know who he is. So I'm used to Music Soul Child with glasses on. Me and Music Soul Child probably talked 4 times, and I'm helping him with stuff in the studio, and because he's not wearing sunglasses. I'm thinking he's just, J-Rail's homeboy, and come to find out they got a whole project together. But I had built or building this little foundation. But the entire time that I do it, I'm not doing it as Joe Lewis. I'm doing it as Roughside Productions. That was the production team name. So people know me, oh yeah, that's Joe, but they only know me through Roughside. And I was very naive when it came to um, networking. So because I had never been around these kind of people, I didn't know how to get around them without them knowing that I've never been around these kind of people. So I always left the networking to my manager, getting the numbers and talking and things like that. And he sucked at it, honestly, because he had two or three other businesses, so I wasn't the main priority. But what happened was when we left that studio building, I didn't have a foundation. So I can just tell you about that Maroon 5 song, and then, even what's even kind of more crazy is that the version that does come out from Maroon 5, so J-Real had a studio over here, my studio was here. Their engineer, his name is Jay Rich. He's Offset's engineer. His version of the song comes out. So Offset helped Cardi B write the song. So Jay Rich doesn't know me at the time. Jay Rich just found out that we kind of had this song or these versions amongst each other in some random conversation. But it was crazy to see how full circle that song really went, because even though, so they didn't buy my version, they did buy Jay Rail's version. They don't put his version out, but they use a version that Jay Rich recorded, because he recorded Offset and Cardi, because Offset wrote part of Cardi's verse. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to see how full circle things can be, or how connected you and other people are without knowing it. But back to the bigger lesson is I lost my face card, and that really, really, really fucks you up. There's no way in hell that I can walk around saying I worked with Maroon 5, but I can't get back in touch with them. They like my music, but I don't have a point of contact. Jill Scott, when she came, and this is kind of how interesting, like, or how particular relationships and vibes and energy is in music. So Jill Scott walks in the room, we're hanging out, and it's her, I think her manager, and then there's me, my manager, and one of the other producers. And so we're all three males. And Jill's a guest here. And we've had clients come before. But Jill asked us, do we want water? Like, hey, are you guys thirsty? I'll go grab you guys some water. So all three of us initially felt bad for a few reasons. One, she's a woman, so we felt that we should have already have asked her if she needed anything. Beside her being a woman, she was a guest. So we felt like, and you're Jill Scott of High Side. We should be taking care of you right now. You shouldn't be asking us if you want water. So honestly, it has nothing to do with her being a woman. She's Jill Scott. We should have been asking her if she's taken care of, but she asked us. So when she asked us, we're like, oh no, like, you don't have to get it for us. We're kind of scared to talk to her because we realized we just fucked up by not asking Jill Scott if she wanted some water. So she goes, oh no, it's fine. I'll go get it. Does anybody want to come with me? We're so thrown at Jill Scott asking us, one, do we want water? Two, do we want to come with her? We're trying to be polite. Oh, no, like, we'll still be here. We're just trying to be nice. I haven't seen Jill after that conversation. She didn't come back to the room. But what would have happened if I did walk out with Jill to go get the water? Maybe I do hear her now where we can talk, and maybe now I'm working with her, producing, or, you never know where things are going to go unless you take that extra step. Mm-hmm. So I learned that you can't be scared. You got to go have that conversation. I think I've talked to Coach K 3 times. He probably doesn't remember me, but every time I learn something new, just walk up to him, hey, say whatever your spiel is and see what happens. Because while I talked to him 3 times and he might not remember me, it might be the 6th time of me talking to Coach K where he goes, you know what, hey, come over here with me and let me hear what you got going on. So, never lose your face in music, and never, ever be afraid to have a conversation, because closed mouths don't get fed. But that was the beginning of me coming down to Atlanta and working. And then after that, and when we left the studio, I had to go through a rebranding, or I had to brand myself, find clients, and because at this time I have no idea how to find a client. Like, I don't even know what that looks like. I'm coming from Michigan. How the hell am I supposed to get somebody to come record who I don't know, or who might not want to record? That's a totally different situation than what I was used to, so I had to learn that. So after my first year there, I got my own apartment. I had a 2-bedroom. I put my studio in one, and I just began to reach out to anybody in Atlanta that I could come across an Instagram page. And I had to learn Atlanta's culture. So what actually ended up happening was we might have had in my house, bro, we might have sessions all day long, like 24-hour sessions for 5 days straight, maybe. I wasn't recording any of those because I couldn't get people to come record. I got lucky and found a producer. His name was Busy B. I had hit up his artist, and the artist was like, yeah, I'll test Joe out. Busy comes over with the artist. When they leave, Busy texts me, hey, bro, how much would you charge me to use your room? I'll pay you for the room, but, I got a bunch of people that want to record. And that's really how I got going, was putting the studio out of my apartment and being able to meet more rappers. So the same people that wouldn't record with me would end up coming recording at my house anyways because they knew Busy. They just didn't know me, so they're not going to come record. So I spent about 2 years. It's been about 2 years doing that, recording, just producing. That's when I learned how to reach out, and now I'm working with you. And then, trying to find bigger artists, but I didn't want to, for lack of better words, I didn't want to be a recording engineer. Sometimes recording engineers are looked down upon, or they get treated, or again, for lack of better words, like somebody's bitch. That cannot be me because it's not. It's just not going to work out with my personality type because I don't understand why somebody thinks that the most important person in the room can be shitted on. Like, how are you talking down to your engineer? If the engineer undid everything, you sound like ass. So I couldn't get with that, but I wanted to work with bigger artists. I also couldn't get with. I'm very, very like I look at my music like a baby. I don't want my kids just anywhere. So I have a lot of beat makers where they'll send out 20 beats to an artist a day, and they keep track of which artist has which beats and if they're being used. But the concept of just knowing that my beat is sitting on somebody else's computer, not being used, or maybe it gets used and I don't know, and that they might be bad at business, or I can't control it all the way, at least until the payment is through, didn't sit right with me. So I stopped trying to get bigger placements unless I had connections, and I had to learn how to build connections. So then I spent the next year just networking. I think I spent, unless somebody was paying me to work, I wouldn't work. I would only network, because I had to learn that. So somebody's going to tell you, music business is 90% business, 10% music. So I ran with that thinking for a while. Mm-hmm. And I was able to actually get business going, but my creativity started to slack. I wasn't making as good a song as I know I could. My beats were good, but I was only making them when I had to make them, and I didn't like that. So I had to learn that the music industry is 100% business, 100% music. You have to have 200% going at all times to be successful. But through me, trying out the 90-10 method, I built a really nice network of really dope-ass engineers and producers that got Grammy-nominated, multi-platinum, Billboard. And how it really happened was the guy that I was telling you about, Jay Rich, his friend, his name is Brian. I sent Brian some music because Brian ran the studio that Jay Rich would record out of, like that room. And I was like, hey, just check my music out. I hadn't talked to Brian in about a year because we had all left that studio building. He said, damn, bro, you still doing music? Like, yeah, what the fuck else am I supposed to be doing in my life? He goes, hey, join this group chat. And this group chat was it's a WhatsApp chat, but it was similar to like a Discord for a bunch of industry engineers and producers, just sharing tips and tricks and opportunity placements and things like that. So I joined it, and at this time, I'm also working for a company called Music Makers. They were a streaming platform, and I'm also beginning to work with Loom, an application that it's a social streaming platform. Loom is a really great application for artists. So I think I put something in the chat like, hey, check out one of these apps. I'm working with them. Like, let me know what you think. If anybody wants to get closer with the app, let me know because I know one of the directors. Jay Rich seen it, and he goes, you know about applications? And I'm like, I don't know how to build them, but I know how to consult and how to, organize things together for whatever you need. So through that, Jay Rich had built this team of producers who wanted to help him out with his application, and through that, I was able to take advantage of the producers that were and engineers that were in here. So I'm able to talk with Young Thug's engineer and learn how he's getting Thug sound, and ask him questions. Hey, what are you doing with this, or what's this, or say I can talk to Jay Rich and hey, how did you get Offset to sound like this? So I was able to take advantage of those numbers and begin to build relationships with them, and then through that, I was making a lot more money. I was in a lot better opportunities, and I knew a lot more people who were of higher quality. But again, the issue was that my music sucked. So everybody else's music was getting done because they paid me, so I did my work. Mm-hmm. But my music was taking a toll. I wasn't. I think 1 year I only wrote 20 songs. The previous year I wrote 100. So I seen a huge shift in the songs that I had. So after that, the pandemic hit, and the pandemic hit right after I got back from Brazil. I had these. They're not old. They're 40. I'm 25, so if you're older than 30, you're old to me. And these older Brazilian men, they hit me up on Facebook. Hey, do you want to put American rap on Brazilian samba? I'm like, whatever that means, sure. Because my mentor in high school would always tell me, you're never too big until you're too big, and even when you're too big, you're never too big. And I said, what does that mean? Well, you're never too big until you're too big. And he said, even when you're too big, you're not too big because you're too much better of a person. You just don't have enough time, which means you're not really too big. You're just too busy. Mm. So when I'm looking at these people on Facebook, I'm like, bro, these old men look like they don't do shit with music. But I'm really not shit. So who am I to say somebody else isn't shit? So again, I'm not too big. I'm not big at all. So I really can't be too big until I'm too big. So I was like, let's send it over. And if I like it, I'll do it. They sent over this song, and the production was so high quality that I fell in love. So I record my part. I ended up traveling to Hawaii. I come back to Hawaii, and we shoot the video. And then after the video, they explained to me, hey, the producer is, this big musical director in Brazil. We want to do this. And so then that was in June. They called me in January. Hey, Joe, we're going down to, November. We'll be in Brazil. We want you to come perform with us. But they only want me to come for the performance for 2 days. Who the fuck goes to Brazil for 2 days? I've never been out the country like that before. I need to go down there and really hang out. So I go down to Brazil with my team. I'm there for a week and a half by myself, and my team comes down for the performance because we have to tape things. And I fell in love, bro. I fell in love with the culture. I fell in love with their music culture more so. So aside from these people just being really fucking nice and it's all about a good time, they appreciate music so much differently than we do. It is, honestly, it makes no sense, and it makes me upset that we don't look at music the same way they do. Music is non-stop here. It's always in the air. Somebody's always playing something. Everybody sings the same songs, and I guess the best way to put it is, when you're watching those older movies like The Temptations or the James Brown movie or any movie that shows, older artists, and they're in these really tight clubs and it's jam-packed, but it's just rocking and it's kind of juked out. I wanted that. I see that from my music all the time. I don't see myself on stage without musicians or on stage just by myself and, the speakers. I see what they have going on down here, but I never had an actual representation of it aside from movies. So I came down here and I seen that this is what they do all the time. I said, wow, I need to just come down here, So we made all these plans to come back down. I was supposed to come back down last May, then last November, but it just never happened with the pandemic. Then I finally, got the vaccine so that I can be extra safe and, move myself down here so I could focus on being an artist. Because the other thing is, I believe in going where you're appreciated, and right away they showed me love as an artist. People in America, because of where American music is at, for them to like my music, they had to sit and listen to it and digest it because it's not what would normally be playing. R&B music isn't the number one genre right now, and R&B music is taking from hip hop. My R&B music is a little bit more traditional, a little bit more closer to dance music, and a little bit more closer to worldly music than it is, just hip hop. So, people listen to my music. Oh, that's a great song. After they sit and listen to it, if they're passively listening to it, it won't happen. So I've always felt, I guess, no love, like no honest. Hey man, we fuck with your music, we fuck with your voice. I never felt that in America because everybody wants the beats or engineering because that's me helping somebody else out. No one wants to, fuck with me. They always want you to fuck with them. That's honestly just how life works. So when I came down here right away, no one asked me for a beat. They didn't ask me to record or engineer, and they just wanted me to sing. And they, what I wanted to do with crossing cultures, because I want America to appreciate Brazil's culture for music, so we can learn how to appreciate our music that way. In the same vein, there's something about America that's attractive to everybody. So they love American music. They just don't get it to them all the time. An American hasn't necessarily been purposeful in working in Brazil. So when I figured out those things, I was like, you know what? Let me go build an international foundation because when I was driving over, I wasn't driving down here. I'm in the taxis. I'm hearing Lionel Richie still on the radio. Lionel Richie is easily 30 years removed from the radio in terms of a hit song. But for whatever reason down here in Brazil, they don't care. It's a Lionel Richie song. It's on the radio. But it's because they care about good music. They don't care about what's popular. They care about what's good. Mm-hmm. And I love that. All I have to do is make good music and do some business, and I'm great. Versus in America, you can make horrible music. You got to be great at business, and you have to be great at the bullshit, at the glitz and the glam and the artist part. You have to have this facade, per se, that isn't even true. You're trying to keep up with somebody, or it kind of goes back into play with the social media thing. So, when I seen that, I was like, man, let me move myself down here, and here I am, bro. Like, I'm sure that was a long ass spiel, but that's kind of how I got here to this point. Was just all of those little lessons, and I know there were a lot more, and a lot of people helping me out, man. You cannot do this by yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, there's the times where I was at my worst in music, it was because I was by myself, and either I wasn't smart enough to get help, or I wasn't thinking to get help, or I didn't know how to, or what resources to use. But you would not be successful without a team. It's impossible to have 200%. So the only how you can have 200% is if you have more people bringing you their own time to work towards this bigger picture. Mm-hmm. So and you get a lot of ups and downs. So it's kind of crazy, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, now that I actually just spoke all that shit to you, it's only been like 4 years. That's some crazy ass. Like, you don't realize things when you're going through them. But, like, bro, I have Dave, one of my artists in Canada. He has his album went #1 on Spotify. We just sit at home all day long. Like, Dave sits in Canada, he builds stairs. I was in Atlanta just, working, but it's crazy to see that the things that can happen when you just kind of keep your nose down and still learning. Like, I have so much shit that I still have to learn, but to kind of go through those processes kind of fast. A lot of people don't get to work in Maroon 5-6 days within getting the music industry. It's just kind of crazy, So, I always try to be appreciative of it, but, kind of talking to you out loud kind of just opened my eyes, like, oh, shit. Like, this really has been my life for the past 4 or 5 years, I guess. I haven't done shit else aside from music.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm so glad you just did that, because, like, I always say this, these are the best episodes when I can just have the guest kind of just let it all go. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even have to do anything. Like, you just gave me everything. So, like, you just made this so much easier for me. I'm sitting here, I got the questions. I'm like, nope, fuck the questions. He's got this. So I just but, like, that's why I wanted you on this show, though, because I knew that you would bring that to this platform, because, like, it's so important. Like, And like you said, it's only been a few years. Like, imagine another 10, 15 years, what's going to happen for you. And, like, I can tell that, ever since we've been working together, I can just tell that you have that attitude of just, like, you're just going to get it any way you can. You don't really care about outside opinions. You don't care about any of that. Just your journey, you're on it, and that's where you're at. So I'm just going to...
I'm glad that, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm glad that you said that, because I do believe that I'm going to always get it no matter what. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily think that it's because I'm me. I had this lady tell me one time that some old man was talking to her, and she was asking him why, it was her mentor, and she was asking him why, why she was having whatever hardships through entertainment that she was having, and how come she wasn't successful yet. She's just, lost on her journey, per se, trying to get some guidance. And he said, you know what, Rocky? The only people that don't have it are the ones who stopped. Hmm. And when she said that to me, and she broke it down, she goes, when you think about it, I looked around, and all my friends who don't have it, they stopped somewhere. Like, they just stopped. He said, and it's not that I don't have it, I just don't have it yet. I'm going to get it because I'm not stopping. Hmm. And when she told that to me, that just became something I lived by, because I began to see friends. I have friends that, there's so many people I started music with, bro, or that I thought would still be here, years later. And again, it's only been 4 or 5 years, but they stopped. So then they look at me like, oh, damn, Joe, how did you do this? And I was just with you. Well, you could have been doing this shit too, and you probably could have helped me make my shit way better, but you stopped. I was the only person, with the people that I started making music with, who would jump off the deep end. I remember when I told my roommate, her name was Ali. I lived with Ali when I first moved down. I said, hey, I'm gonna do music full time. Everybody in my life said, don't do it, bro. You're fucking drunk. You have no money. You have no actual opportunities coming in. Like, none of this is making any sense. And I was like, fuck y'all. I'm going to do it. And there were a lot of times, bro, where, I'm one T-shirt away from, like, my bag being packed and going back to Michigan because it's just so hard. But I always remembered, like, those who don't have it stopped. So I just... try not to stop because I want it. And I think that that's the case for, a lot of people. I don't know anybody who is unsuccessful because they tried. Mm-hmm. I never met a person who just sucks at their career while they gave 100%. It's not possible. When you really do give your all, you'll get that shit back tenfold. So I'm glad you said that, because I think somebody else needs to hear that. Music is very, very discouraging. Mm-hmm. People don't understand how many times you hear the word no, how many people laugh at your creativity, because music is sensitive. So you just came from the heart. You go show somebody, oh, this fucking sucks. They don't know it took you 10 days and 20 tissue boxes of tears to get this song right. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you said that, because people, they have to know, just don't stop. You can get whatever the fuck you want, just keep working at it, and eventually it's going to hit, like, whenever your time is right. Not your time, like, whenever you do it right, but, I believe in God. So whenever God has your timing right, it's going to happen just like that, Or some people say the universe, or whoever they believe in, when it's your moment, you'll know. You just can't stop until then. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad you said that, bro, because that was a really big piece of advice that somebody gave me, is just don't stop. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very, very well said. Everything you just said, man. I agree with all of it, and I'll kind of just yeah, I can still hear you. I'll kind of just recap kind of what you just ran through, and kind of just give all the points that I thought that I took away from everything. So, like, just the beginning, like your whole like transition from football to music, I thought that was very interesting. How you said like it was like a missing void. Like music was a void that was missing. You had to fill that void. You didn't really understand that at first. I thought that was very cool. The whole Maroon 5 story was very interesting, because I had seen that in your credits before and, like, in your bio and everything, but I didn't know, like, the nature of the story and, like, the song and everything. So I think, like, the process of that was, like, what you just described was pretty incredible. And just, I think that goes to show, like, we talk about music, it's like there's so many moving parts, and the more people that are involved, there's even more moving parts. So it's like you really just got to play your part and really just as best you can, you kind of just have to stay level. Like, don't get too high and don't get too low as far as what you expect to happen, and just see how it plays out. And I think you would echo that sentiment as, like, it's good to just continue to work through those types of situations, and, like, you hope for the best, but don't expect anything, like, because it's not guaranteed, and, like, you never know.
In the same vein, when, and you know this because you're a producer, you're never just working on one song. So it's not like, when I had the Maroon 5, while I did sit with that song for a week, I still had to go record people and make beats and do this. So it's never just one song. And I think that's kind of the best part about music, and it keeps you going because there's never just one,
Exactly.
But you're right on with that one.
Exactly. And then you said the Hit Boy thing. So am I correct in saying that the Chill Who's Your Neighbor is the one from Surf Club? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I know this. So, I'm a fan, bro. I'm a huge fan.
So Chill was telling me. So I didn't start listening to hip hop until like the 9th or 10th grade. I was R&B, blues, gospel. I like vocals, and he kept telling me, bro, Hit Boy, my brother, Surf Club, this, and I was around so and so. I'm like, okay, I don't even know how to fact check this, And then one day I seen Hit Boy post. I'm like, let me go see if Hit Boy does know him. And sure enough, there's a picture with Chill in the background, just like asleep, like they're just hanging out.
Yeah.
But that's Chill. Real that's cool dude. Wild. Chill is actually, he's like a Kanye. He produces his own beats. He writes he records other people. So I really do appreciate Chill for that opportunity because Hit Boy is one of my favorite producers. So, and Stacy Barthe vocals sounded gorgeous on that song. I've never heard background vocals sound so plush. Like, bro, the whole song could have just been her vocals just oohs and ahs, But damn, that's crazy. Chill.
So, well, I don't know Chill, but I know kind of the story because the reason I got into producing was because of Hit Boy. Like, he was one of the main reasons I even wanted to be a producer in general. So, like, when the HS87 thing was a movement, like a few years ago, when it was like Hit Boy and all his artists and everything, that was like a thing. They put out an album called We the Plug. It was a big album and everything. And Chill was on that album. He did like the outro to one of the songs. And I guess when they made Surf Club, it was like Hit Boy, Chill, Stacy, G-Rye, Kent Money, and I think a couple other people. That was like the group in like the early Chasing Cash, he was the other one. They were in like the early 2010s. And I think Chill got locked up for something. So he went away for a long time.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. He got locked up. I don't know for how long, or because I had no idea. When I beat Chill, he was just getting off probation. So he got locked up, and I do know that was a huge, like, that really hurt him. Like, sometimes being locked up, God forbid, or I don't even know how this can sound right, but sometimes going to jail helps an artist, depending on what they got going on and where they're at. He wasn't at the stage to benefit from going to jail or having a moment like that, So it ended up hurting him, and more so on the back end of things. I just talked to Chill probably about a month ago. He's taking the more independent route with things now that he can control them because, I don't mean to put all his business out there, but he talks about this openly because it's his path, So he told me this to learn from. So when he got locked up and he comes back, for however much time there was, he was gone. Music changes, the labels move fast. So if you're gone, the label's just gonna bring another rapper in, and the label that wanted to keep him kind of just wanted to keep him around and show him not putting any music out and things like that. So he's taking the more independent route. I know he just shot a music video out in Vegas, but man, Chill's a great guy, love him to death. But that's crazy. That kind of just blew my mind because I had no idea who Chill was. I just knew that I could tell in how he was talking. So especially when you're in Atlanta, people will lie. Oh, I was around so and so. I know so and so. So he's telling me, hey, bro, Hit Boy's my brother. Bro, I was with Drake before. The reason why Drake is doing that is because he's around me and Hit Boy, and this person doing that, man. I was around there when they did that idea. I'd be in the studio. I'm like, man, you talking a lot of shit, but I believe you. And I couldn't figure out, like, I had no, like, he wasn't coming across like how everybody else would, oh, I know so-and-so. No, you don't. Sit down and shut up. You're lying right now. Because if I call them and ask if they know you, they won't say it. Or if I go ask who I know that knows them, they don't know you. Because a lot of people are just, oh, if I was in a room with somebody, I know them and we're cool. That's not the truth. But there was something about him that I just believed what he was saying, you know, in how he was talking about these stories and situations. And so I never had reason to think somebody's lying to me until I know that they're lying, and he wasn't. And so I'm really glad that I didn't fuck that up for myself, because I could have been like, man, you're capping. You don't know shit. If you know Hit Boy, then why are you here with me right now? Because if I know Hit Boy, I want to be in California. You know, that's the initial surface level thinking that you have when somebody's talking to you, per se. And I'm really glad that something in me was just like, Joe, just be cool. Don't try to discredit somebody right away, and because it could be true. And that was the other thing is, you know, don't look to discredit somebody right away, because what they're saying could very well be true, even if they're coming across, you know, too reserved or too dramatic. You know, either way of the spectrum, take them serious until they prove you otherwise, because it's the most plain looking person or the most unsuccessful looking person that has all the money, all the connections, all the music, all the songs. Like, they have everything that you need, but they're just plain. You know, they don't look the part. Then it's a person with all this jewelry and iced out that has no money, has to return the jewelry, can't record themselves, and, you know, they're fucked. So, man, you know, another life lesson: don't discredit people until they discredit themselves. But I'm still kind of baffled. You know, Chill. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny because, like, he mentions Chill in so many songs too. Like, you'll just hear him like say like "Free Chili Chill" or whatever, and I was always like, who is that? Like, I don't know who that is. And then, like, I learned more about the history of, like, how they all got started together. So that story you told out, that was incredible. That's amazing for sure.
Because again, you know, when I see Chill, I know that he looks like me. So it's not that he looks like a rapper, like he's dressed like, when he has creative energy. I can look at somebody and say, you create, you know? So I'm looking at him, and he, you know, I'm like, man, you do music. And, you know, I'm just glad. So, but I looked at him like a neighbor, you know? So, you know, he's telling me these things. I don't know that he has a fan. You're a fan of Chill. I didn't know people were fans of his music, you know? So that kind of just made my day, actually. That was pretty cool. That was pretty dope. You know, Chill.
Yeah, definitely a small world, and that's another thing. It's just like, it's crazy to see like all the people that know everybody else too. Like, you just never know who knows all these other people that you might be fans of. So, and then, you know, your move to Brazil, obviously, which I commend you on, because I remember seeing last year you posting a lot of stories and everything and on social media, and I was like, wow, like, that's got to be a huge, like, step up for him and everything. And the way you described the story, as far as, like, you're going where you feel you're going to progress in your career. Like, it's time to take the next steps for you, and that's what this is like you taking that next step to where you want to be. So, man, I'm just proud of your progression and just your journey so far.
It, bro.
And what has always, like, blown my mind about you is that it's like, you've done all this in this short amount of time. And like I said, I feel like you're going to be so far along the line in like 10, 15 years, dude. Like, because you got that work ethic. You are probably one of the hardest working people that I've ever like worked with. I swear to God. Like, I work with a lot of great people, but your work ethic is like, I look at people like you and I'm like, I got to step up what I do. You know what I mean? Because
man, I appreciate that so much, man. That's like, I think work ethic compliments are the best ones. You know, I can't say shit, but thank you. I'm glad that somebody notices. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. A lot of times, when your nose is down, you don't think people notice your work. You know, so I never thought you didn't notice my work, but you sent me the money in the files. I sent you back your files. So I'm not thinking, oh, does Anthony notice how I'm working, or does my other client notice how I'm working? Because I have some clients who believe they are my only client. You know, and that's fine. No, that's the relationship I build with them, because I do want people to, like, when I'm talking to you, you should have all my time, and I'm working on your song, I'm not distracted, you know. But I appreciate that, because there's so much that goes on, and, you know, some people, you didn't have to notice that. You know what I mean? And my work ethic is something that I always prided myself on. Again, kind of being the only thing that differs me from other people, because I don't believe I'm the most talented or I possess some other skill. I just believe that I try to work hard where I can work the hardest at. So I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. And like for me, it's just I don't work with just anybody. Like you have to really like be very skilled,
smart,
or like
man, bro. I had that same rule. Do not work with just anybody. That shit's dangerous.
I've worked with shitheads in the past. I can't do that anymore. Like it just doesn't work.
It's not fun.
But I really feel like if I work with someone, it's because they're either way better than me, or they work harder than me, or they're about at the level of seriousness that I'm at. Because I take this shit seriously. So if you know what I mean,
that's the exact same rules that I have. Is that either you had to be better than me, I had to be able to learn from you, or there's, I don't ever believe that somebody's necessarily below me. But there are times where you do reach down and you help somebody, and you're a lending hand. And I always try to be a lending hand, but I can't work with people that I'm lending hands to, because I wouldn't be able to do shit. But I definitely learned, like, when it comes to closely working, or you want to at least like the person, So I learned to stop, I like this song, or I like how they make music, or they're cool person to be around. Do I like you as a person? Can my mom meet you? Can you babysit my kid for 10 minutes maybe? I don't have a kid, but just hypothetically. Because if you can't do all those things, how can we lock ourselves in a room and be intimate and make a song? And I think a lot of people think music is shits and giggles, and when you start working with those real artists, like I have an artist, she wouldn't let anybody else be in my apartment. So if I had another artist over, I had to ask him to leave because she wanted it to just be me and her, so there was no distractions. That way she could be as vulnerable as she needed to be without wondering, is somebody going to hear me crack a note real quick as I'm just trying to get my words down, So it definitely, I'm glad that you're picky with the people that you work with, because that's going to save you a lot of time. I used to not be picky. I used to work with whoever wanted to make some noise and whoever had a fucking dollar. Like, you got some music and some money? Shit, come work with me. And I had to learn that every dollar is not a good dollar, and every song is not a good song, So be very, very picky with who you work with, because it's all an energy transfer, and everything is, it's all what you build. So I'm a firm believer in, networking and working left to right, your peers. I believe that the people that are around me are just like me in their own world and in their own way. So whatever level you think I'm at, I think you're at that same level just in your world, and they'll show differently, because there's no way that me and you would be able to actually have this conversation if we weren't really peers, because if we weren't, that means that either I'm helping you out or you're helping me out. And I can't say that we've given one another a handout. You know what I'm saying? I think it's been very, very mutual in everything that we're doing. So, I believe that, 10 years from now, I'll look over and you'll be doing all the great shit that you do, podcasting, producing, and I think that, I don't know, man. I think that there's going to be a lot of nice shit that comes from the people that we're working around. Almost like an ecosystem. That's exactly what I wanted to say. It's like building a ecosystem of your peers. So, when I look, there's no coincidence that you're still doing music 2-3 years from now. I know for a fact you had to go through some type of hell to still be able to get here. Like, a lot of people aren't going to talk about it. I didn't talk about my hell that I went through because it's not pretty. Like, who the fuck wants to talk about when you were doing really bad? So to still be doing this 2 years from now, bro, 3 years from now, I know that you also have the 5, 10, 15 years from now too, because you haven't stopped now. And so the other thing, this is why I like you, is that you just found another avenue to kind of continue doing what you're doing. And that was something that I had a really hard time with, is, okay, I want to be a producer, engineer, singer. And in my mind, I'm thinking if I do all three of those things, it's keeping me around music. But in reality, I needed to, start doing more business things, or start, doing other things that didn't have to do with the song process. So I was thinking because I could be a part of different parts of the song process that I'll always be around and I'm always be good. You know, you gotta start doing other things. You know, cause I consult now. I do honestly whatever somebody needs me to, as long as it's in the entertainment realm per se, and I have the ability. But I had to learn that, you know, not to just be so gun ho. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. Like, but when you have 52 episodes, that's crazy. That's work that people are, you know. When you sound like, yeah, you've been doing this for a whole fucking year.
Yep.
On top of all the other shit. So, definitely kudos to you. I'm a firm believer in, you know, the ecosystem that we're building here, left to right. So, you know, I know 5-10 years from now, we probably would have had 100 more podcast interviews talking shit about the first one we ever did together.
Absolutely, man. And like me and you, we got that consistency. You know, I think that's in our DNA. So it's meant to be.
I'm telling you, bro. I had just told my girlfriend this probably sometime this morning. I was like, man, you know, I said, me and Anthony talked one time on the phone, but he's been like, he's so consistent with everything. Like, I felt like, and this is the best part to me about music, is that I feel like I know you, even though this is our second time having a voice or, you know, FaceTime conversation, because I've been able to work with you on your music, you know. And to me, I think that's one of the most beautiful things is getting to know somebody without talking. You know, I was 100% comfortable coming to talk with you, not because I know how to do a podcast, but I felt like I know you already. You know, we've been working together for so long, and, you know, music is so sensitive that you begin to see people's truths and, you know, the kind of person that they are. So, yeah, bro, your consistency is ridiculous. The fact that you shot a podcast every fucking week is like,
it's been it's been a challenge, but, you know, again, like I now put the podcast up there with the music. Like, I gotta do it, because if I fall off, then I don't. It's all about the self-discipline for me. I train myself in self-discipline, and I'm the only one that can make it happen. So it's fun. It's fun, man.
This. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's fun. Like, you gotta learn to make that shit fun and not like work. And if you really love it, then it's not work. Like this shit, doing music every day, doing this, making content, that's not work to me. It's fun now. Like, I've made it fun.
Bro,
So
after I got my first degree at Full Sail, I went right back into my master's, but I ended up not finishing it. And the very first class that I had was called Mastery. And I can't remember the book that we had to read, but the book said that people who are considered masters at their craft or in their field, when you look at their thinking process and how they maneuver, they're the only ones amongst their colleagues that look at that task the same way a child would. You know, because when you peel it back, they're doing what they would be. They're doing that same thing that intrigued them as a kid. You know, so they don't look at it like work because they actually enjoy it, which makes them go way further and be a lot more successful because they're enjoying themselves. And when I read that, I started to look at, you know, people who I considered masters. They're only a master because they put themselves in the most natural habitat for them. You know, they're not uncomfortable. You know, so when I used to work in the school system. When I did that, it was somewhat natural, but I was still kind of uncomfortable. Like, I didn't like going to work some days. Or, you know, why don't you like doing what's paying? How do you get paid for something and you don't like it still? That's how you know, you probably shouldn't be doing this job. Once somebody gives you money and you're still like, fuck, I got to go into work today? Like, aren't they, you know, there's an incentive there that you don't even want. That's how you shouldn't be doing this. You know, and then I always tell people, you know, a lot of music, at least in my opinion, because of how I look at it, is to scale and by ratio. So, you know, the same thing that I did for one artist for free, I charged another artist $1,000 for. I did the exact same thing, but the scale per artist was different. The relationships were different as well. The money might have been different, you know. But you know, it's definitely I don't know what the hell I was saying. I rant sometimes too. You know, I don't know if you you figured that. I be talking, bro.
You
I
and me
love music
both,
so
brother.
much that sometimes when like I get to going, I'm just talking out my fucking head, bro.
No worries, brother. And that's what made this episode great, man. And that's all I have for you right there. So we can wrap it up right there. But like I said, man, keep at it, bro. Like I know you're going to,
Oh,
and I
definitely.
know you got the spirit for it, man. You got the work ethic, you got the talent, you got it all, man. So just
I
keep
appreciate it.
going.
I
And
appreciate that.
obviously, me and you are gonna keep working, and hopefully we can do another interview soon, and we'll see what happens, man.
No, definitely, man. I appreciate this so much. Like, so do other people get happy when like you do a podcast with them? Like, are people appreciative of like you interviewing them?
I hope so. I mean, they say they do, but maybe they turn off the phone and they're like, God, that sucked. I don't know. I hope so, but
Damn, I'm really like I'm really appreciative. So this is the third podcast that I've done, and I've been so happy every time I get done with the podcast and talk. I'm so happy, like damn. I just talked about music, and somebody's gonna listen, but that's cool. But I just got to talk about music with somebody, and it was productive. You can run your mouth about music all day, but at least in a podcast, it's productive because it's content that's going someplace. But I'm really appreciative of the opportunity because, for those who aren't appreciative of, joining onto your podcast, you're helping them out more than you're actually helping yourself out, whether or not you know it or they know it, because you're helping them reach an audience that you're building. So it's an audience they might not ever have reached to, So I really do hope that other people are appreciative of the podcast, because I am. Like I'm really glad that you asked me to do this. Again, because that means that you were looking like I should talk with Joe. So I appreciate just that you want to talk to me. I think that's just pretty fucking cool. So I'm thankful.
thank you guys for listening today. That was episode number 52. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you want to send any funds. We'll see you this time next week. Thank you very much.